Welcome, Jonathan. Thank you so much for joining me on the Wholesome Crypto podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm excited to learn more about you and figure out what got you started on SongADAO.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Excited to share.
Yeah, I first learned about you with your songs about crypto, but I know you've been doing this for much longer than that. I think since January 1st, 2009. And yeah, let's go back into that. And before we even go back to January, let's hear about how you even got into music in general. Were you always a musician? Was it in your family? Tell me more about that.
No, it wasn't in my family at all. And sometimes I feel a little bit jealous of like people who had musical parents or had that kind of role model, because I definitely didn't. I can remember being really little, and I always loved music, which is not unique in any way. I have kids now, like all kids love music, it's a very,
natural rhythm,
primordial. Yeah. It's like a primordial thing that we have. But I can remember I didn't have anyone in my life who played music. So I didn't understand. I can remember like even being 5 years old and not quite like understanding how music worked, or like I always tell this story of like I remember at some kind of talent show at my school, some like older kids got up and like lip synced to, I don't know, some Bon Jovi song or something. It sort of dates myself, but like, and I remember they were playing like tennis rackets as guitars, and I was like, how do they know? I remember thinking to myself, I remember this like 5-year-old thought of asking myself, like, how do they know like what instruments are playing? Like, how do they even decide like what to play? So that's just to say that like I literally had no frame of reference for anything having to do with music. When I turned 12, that sort of light bulb moment came on. There's, I think 12 is a really special age. Right around that age is when you start, developing your own identity, and like, this is the thing that I'm going to do that I'm going to really like. And I got really into Bob Dylan for whatever reason. He had always been around. My parents were sort of hippies or whatever, but, and I got really into Dylan all of a sudden, and I really wanted to play guitar and write songs like him. Like that was my
So
entry.
Bob Dylan was definitely the influencer in your life and just music in general. And so when did you get your first instrument? What was your first instrument?
It was guitar. Okay. And I was 12. It was for Christmas.
Oh, that's sweet. I'm actually currently learning how to play guitar, but straight up novice. I don't know. I'm still learning how to put my hands on the chords.
Oh, totally. I mean, but I wanted it so bad. It was the kind of thing where like I was, I was in that sort of tween state where like every day I would come home from school, pick up the guitar, and just like, I really wanted it.
I love that. And now that you have your own guitar, was it like, okay, I guess were you thinking long-term, this is going to be my career, I'm going to make my life out of this? Or is it just like, you're just feeling a curiosity and you're kind of not really sure where the road's taking you?
It's funny because looking back, like when I was little, like I said, I didn't have any role models. So it didn't really occur to me that it could necessarily be a career. And my career, of course, has not been in any way like, I don't know, there's never been a role model for me, because it's like just been one thing after another where I've sort of like had to invent what I was going to do. But at that age, all I knew at that age was that I wanted to write songs. That's all I knew at that age, was like, I really want to do this. And that has never gone away. Wow. Like that part of it has never ceased, of like, I just want to write songs, like that's just what I want to do.
Yeah. And it was amazing. Like I remember like looking over your profile, like you were writing songs for G4 TV. I didn't even know that. I mean, I didn't know that until now. And I used to watch G4 TV.
Oh, so right on. Like back in the day? Like what would you watch? Like X-Play?
Yeah, X-Play was pretty much what I watched. Got all my news feed about gaming through there.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the first like biggest jobs that I did where I got like paid. I think I got paid like not enough money. I got paid like $1,800 or something. I got paid to make X Play the musical. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a musical episode with Morgan Webb and Adam Sessler singing, and I wrote all the music for that episode. I did all the songs.
That's wild.
I appeared in it in the beginning. Yeah, that was like, and then I did a bunch of like my early work circa 2004, 2005, 2006 through 2007 maybe. I was like 23, 24, 25, 26. All of my like first early jobs were working for G4. We're doing
so how did you get into that industry? I mean, you were obviously like in high school learning to play by yourself, writing your own little songs, and then what would you go to college for, like a musical degree? Or
so I went to a small liberal arts college in Vermont called Bennington, and they don't have majors at Bennington. It's one of those kind of schools. So it was perfect for me because I just wrote songs all the time. Like but I wasn't actually in the music program. You take at Bennington, you just take whatever you want, and then I went to grad school, and it was at grad school that in Los Angeles that I made this rock opera based on the Super Mario Brothers.
That's awesome.
Called the Mario Opera. And so my friend was working at G4. My good friend Ryan was working on, if you remember the show G4TV.com that got canceled. He was working on that. And he pitched to Attack of the Show that they should come cover the Mario Opera, which I was performing up at my school, Cal Arts, California Institute of the Arts. And so they came out and they covered it. And then when I left grad school, I got an internship at G4.
Wow.
And I started interning, I was like 22, interning at G4. And what I would do is I would go to the pitch meetings for X-Play and for AOTS, and I would listen to all the things that they were pitching. And if someone pitched something that I thought like, oh, there could be a song for that, I wouldn't even tell them. I would just write the song.
Yeah, that's a good
idea.
I'd
go home, I would write the song, and then come back and say, hey, you know that idea that you guys are going to do? Here, I made a theme song for it. And like, they ended up using like a few of those. And it was sort of through that relationship that I ended up, doing that.
That's awesome. You took the initiative for that too. It's not like, I bet if you asked them at the meeting, they'd probably be like, oh, here's an idea. Or like, nah, we shouldn't do this. And just like,
yeah, I would be like, sure. Yeah.
So that's awesome. You took the initiative and like, I got something ready for you here.
Yeah, here it is, like use it or don't. Funny story about that. The producer, I don't know what his official title was, but like the producer of Attack of the Show, in many ways, like the mastermind of what made that show really great, like back in the day, is a gentleman called Gavin Purcell. And he went on to be like Jimmy Fallon's producer on Late Night for many years. He did some stuff with Sarah Silverman. He's now like some executive at Universal. But he actually is huge into NFTs now. I sent him like his first NFT. He like reached out to me maybe like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago and was like, what's up with this NFT thing? You seem to be really into it. And I was like, dude. And then, but he's become full degen. Like he's gone full crypto NFT. Like he created an alternate persona on Twitter that is his like, his crypto persona. And he is in neck deep. So that's like a really fun G4 NFT connection.
That's awesome. And before we get like deep into NFTs and crypto, when did you even first hear about Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Well, so funny story about that is that, I started writing a song a day on January 1st of 2009, as you said. The Genesis block of Bitcoin is January 3rd of 2009. So 2 days after I started SongADAO is when Bitcoin had its first transaction or Genesis block. So I was like, that was at the height of the financial crash, right? Like the height of the big recession. And I was obsessed with the Great Recession. Like I was convinced that, we were going to go off the deep end and the whole world was going to end, which it feels like it's going to again now. But like back then it felt that way. And so I remember reading about Bitcoin way back then, like because I was so immersed in like
the tech scene,
being terrified of like what's happening in money. And, so I'm sure like some blog that I came across, but of course it was too technical for me. And I'm a computer person, but like back then you had to really
cypherpunk, all that.
Yeah. So, and then the next time that I remember hearing about it was like in 2014 when it was pumping at one point, and or maybe 2013. There was like a little pump in that era where it like reached 1,000 for the first time or something. And I had a friend who had invested early. And he's like, "Man, I'm making so much money." And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting." And then it wasn't until 2017, a couple years after Ethereum had launched, that I sort of learned about the sort of non-monetary focused uses of the blockchain. This sort of like nascent crypto art scene that, my first exposure was CryptoPunks in 2017, like a couple months after it had been launched. And immediately that lit a fire in my imagination in a way that no other story about crypto had before. Like my friend was like, making so much money.
It's all about the money. Now you're like, finally it's about some art.
And then now it's about something that I can relate to, and so then of course I basically I just dove in head first. I learned about Pepe, the rare Pepe scene, and I met all those guys. And back in those days, back in those early crypto art days, before they were called NFTs, we were just calling the scene was called crypto art. There were so few of us, there was very few people who were really like, it was just a small band of really passionate folks. You could basically know everybody who was in this scene. And we mostly, I attended DevCon in 2018, and NFTs really flew below the radar there. Super Rare was there. They were showing art, and there was other people doing. I mean, I performed on stage, and I was like, I performed on stage there, and I tokenized the song that I performed as an NFT.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And it went for like 2.5 ETH, and which was like $500 at that point. I was like, sweet, $500. But it was like nobody really cared, right? Like people were like, okay, whatever. Like I don't really
still the pumping value game. It still is today a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, and it takes that, unfortunately, in crypto culture, it's so tied, right? It's so incredibly tied to this money focused thing that it takes the $69 million Beeple sale for people to care.
And that's true. It's like, if you're gonna make some media headlines, it's like, let's talk about the price of this artwork and why it went so much. Like that's not the point. It shouldn't be the point. But
you understand it. It's like that's the way our media works. Our media needs something like that to like hook onto, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because back in the day, we can get into like my project, my SongADAO NFT project, but back in the day when anyone was thinking about making any kind of NFT project, 2017, 2018, 2019, you had this very clear decision you had to make, which was like, are you going to aim this just at crypto people, or are you going to try to expand your market and like try to bring people in? And to try to bring people in, you had to start at the very basic fundamentals every time, which is unfortunate because then you have to start talking about fungibility and like, no one wants to talk about fungibility. Like that's just bullshit, And so the double-edged sword is now you don't have to start at that bottom. Basically everyone, my mom, everyone knows what an NFT is now, more or less. They might not understand it completely, but they've heard it. And you don't have to start from zero. You can start from like 50%, and then from there you can get them up to speed. The double-edged sword of that, of course, is that it's so money focused. It's so awash in speculation. And then the other double-edged sword, maybe it's like a triple-edged sword, is how much people hate NFTs. How much the general public is just so angry. And
I feel like the hate is because of the price point. It's like why spend so much on a picture? And they're kind of right. I mean,
like they have a point.
Why are you spending so much on a CryptoPunk? It's cool, but I mean, I get it, and I also would personally never put that much ETH into something like that. But that's just me. I'm not as much of a creative. But for like music or ownership, I totally see it and see why, because that makes complete sense of your hard work. You're getting paid, hopefully, dividends forever and royalties forever if that song is ever bought and transferred and used and licensed. That's like
all that stuff.
It's the beautiful way to do it, and I think that's what we're looking forward to. But right now, brag about how much something costs is all we can do right now. So you started SongADAO on January 1st, and I'm guessing you've just been using current affairs and what's going on in the media and like any kind of topic you can find to have that creative energy. Like how do you do a song a day? Like, and have you missed a day?
Never missed a day. There's sort of three big buckets that I put like what the topics are. And that's like personal, which is like things that are happening in my life, ranging from like the mundane to the extraordinary, like having a baby to going to the dentist, like anything that's happening in my life is fair game. And then poetic or abstract is another one where if I don't know what to write, sometimes I just start writing words and they just come out, or I just start singing them, and then the song isn't really about anything in particular. It's kind of just like a poem or an abstract expression of some feeling that I have at the moment. And then topical, like this, what you sort of mentioned is that's a big part of it. News, video games, technology, politics, you name it, anything that's happening in the world, or even I think like a different way to approach topical for me is like animals. Like if I see a funny animal video, like okay, I'm gonna make that and make a song out of that, or like anything like that is sort of falls in that bucket. So that's where the three broadest categories that I would like say where the inspiration comes from each day.
Yeah. And like, I guess, what was the, like, I guess your purpose behind making that was just, like you said, you just want to write music and you want to write songs. And were you like, this is like a personal challenge, or was this more of like, I'm trying to, show the world what I can do, my art? How was this like your mission? Like, what was the value behind that?
Well, it started out as just being like a month-long thing where I was just aiming to do it for the month of January.
Okay.
That was the goal. And then at the end of January, I decided to keep going for a year.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the year, just became sort of an indefinite thing. And I don't know, what I always say is like, it's not for everybody, right? Like,
it's not easy doing that. People like barely work out every day. So,
but I do think there's value in even just for like a week, do it like making a concerted effort to do whatever art practice you have every day for like a week or like a month. You find, there's a lot of benefits to like to doing some kind of regimented thing, even if it's for a short amount of time. And a big part of it is like, there's a lot of different parts of it. Like one is, we tend to be very precious with the things that we create and consider them to be these like, these little jewels that we're trying to like bring to life. And when you make something every day, you can't have that preciousness, and that sort of frees you to not really worry about essentially being good. It's like to not really worry about making something that's good. You just have to make something. Yeah. And that actually frees you in a lot of ways takes the pressure off, and it frees you to just do more stuff. And the fact of the matter is like, there's many benefits to just making things and not worrying about it.
Yeah, I feel that, especially as someone who just like, for me, I love like my whole like background was like I did electrical engineering, but the reason I got into that is because I just loved tinkering with anything electronic, and I wasn't always trying to make something work out perfectly. I was just doing it to learn and understand and have fun with it, and that pays off. Like it kind of guided me in my career, but it kind of also guided you for your career because, as you said, you're making a song a day, and you've blown up in like different media outlets. You've been interviewed like CNN and even some Japanese TV show. And I think like, what was that experience for you? Like, you're just doing this, I guess, for fun, and now you're like being well known.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's a whole other thing. It's like going viral on the internet. Which back in 2009 was still a kind of novel experience. Like wasn't something that people really knew about. It's great. It's great when it happens, but it doesn't happen all the time. And there's even more benefits in that, right? Like, we're not the best arbiters of like the things that we create, and so when I do this, like oftentimes I put a song out and I think it's just sort of like whatever, like this thing that I just just kind of pooped out this song or whatever. And then, then I'll hear on YouTube comments from people who are like, oh no, I actually really like this one. I'm like, okay, oh, that's interesting. And then there's another aspect, which is, it's always easier to start with something than it is to start with nothing. So, in this process of every single day, I'm just like making something no matter what. In the future, when I want to, I'm like, okay, maybe I want to find a song that I want to like sink my teeth into a bit more and like find the right way to do it. I don't know if you watched like the Beatles thing. It's like remarkable to see, how they did it in this cool Beatles documentary. Mm-hmm. Like it's so similar where it's like they just start with this like idea. And they're really just like throwing ideas out into the room, and then something sticks and they start digging into it. And the fact is like the process of actually like coming up with stuff and just like generating things is very different from the process of like refining and honing and finding. And like those two processes are often diametrically opposed from each other. It's like you don't want to be in a honing mindset when you're in the generation phase, and you don't want to be in the generation mindset when you're in the honing phase. Or there's a quote that is attributed to Hemingway, although I don't think he ever actually said it, but it's fun to pretend that he said it. So just pretend that Hemingway said that you should write drunk and edit sober. And like that's that's like that's totally true. You don't want to edit drunk.
Yeah.
That would be disastrous. And you don't want to write sober. You want to like just get it all out, let
no restrictions, like feel free, let loose.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure plenty of rock stars were intoxicated when they were doing their music.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And why not?
Exactly. Wow. So you're working on this, creating songs a day, and then crypto comes into your life, and then you start to slowly start writing about crypto. And I mean,
the week I learned about CryptoPunks, I wrote a song about CryptoPunks.
And has that been kind of like your driving factor now with SongADAO. I mean, I've seen some songs like about Rocket Pool from, I think what Super Fizz was the one who like, I have him coming on here
I love that.
in about a week or two. So I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I love that man. Love that man. He is such a great advocate and educator of ETH2 staking. Like, I think he's just such a great person in the community.
Yeah, he is. And it's like, it's amazing how much crypto has changed your life. And I'm wondering, like, could you even, at this point, could you even imagine your career without crypto?
I mean, it would look a lot different. So, you know, I started building what has now become SongADAO NFT and also SongADAO, which we can get into. But like, I essentially started building that, or trying to build that, almost immediately having seen CryptoPunks. Like it's so simple now, like because there's so many PFP projects and because there's so many it's almost very obvious. But back then it was not obvious at all, and I felt like I was like, you know, there's CryptoPunks and there's CryptoKitties, and I was like, that's what I want to do with SongADAO. I want to put SongADAO into that model where, you know, there's 10,000 CryptoPunks, there's all these different CryptoKitties, there's a growing number of SongADAO songs, and I want to put SongADAO into that model where the dream was basically to create these images that represent each song, and on the image is going to be the traits of the song, just as you would have traits in a CryptoPunk. You know, and I had to explain this over and over and over to people, and like, no one really, I mean, there was people that got it for sure, but like most people was like, what are you talking about?
That's the feeling with crypto in general. Every time I'm like Ethereum, and people are like, what is this? How does that even work?
Yeah. But yeah, but then what happened essentially is that the crypto winter happened. And so I was working on it straight through 2018, straight through 2019. 2020 hit, and that's actually when I checked out for a bit. There was like a bit of time where I checked out because we were like in dire straits, you know, financially. All like, I had been making my living up to that point. It's a whole other story of doing these conferences where I'd go to a conference, I would watch all the talks, and then I'd get up at the end and make a song that recapped all the talks that happened
live.
At the conference. Yeah, live.
That's tough.
And so that was my job for you know, I started doing that. The first one I ever did was 2011. And you know, ramping up from 2011 all the way up through 2020, I was doing more and more each year, to the point where like 2018, 2019, I was doing like 1 or 2 a month. I was traveling all the time, and then that died in 2020. And so, you know, and then basically like, and then I started to be like, oh, wait a minute, people are starting to pay attention to NFTs now. Like, it seems like something's bubbling here under the surface. Like, things are starting to pick up. So I all this time I'd been like searching for a good Solidity dev, which is still hard to find.
And still either they have to be passionate about the project you're making, or you have to have a lot of money to pay them.
Which has always been the case, because Solidity devs are like worth their weight in gold, basically. And so, you know, as someone who didn't have a lot of money, like I couldn't find someone who aligned with my project enough to want to just do it. So what ended up happening was, finally, I checked back in and I saw that OpenSea had started to, you know, have some of the tools in place where I could sort of just do it. It wasn't going to be perfect. OpenSea has a lot of problems, but like I could sort of just do it on my own, without a Solidity dev.
So minting your own NFTs.
And so I finally launched like year 1 of SongADAO, 365 songs, you know, way back in March. And that went really well. And that sort of set me off to where I am now, where I'm getting ready to, now I have my own contract. I hired a bunch of devs. I'm on track now. And we're heading towards what I'm calling the big sad drop. Unfortunately, Song a Day has the acronym
Yeah.
SAD.
Sad DAO.
But I'm embracing it. It's the big SAD drop, and it happens on December 31st.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
So is that also part of the DAO, or is that a separate entity?
It's all feeds into the same thing. So essentially, like, and this has always been the dream from 2017. The dream essentially was, at some point, I'm going to drop all of my songs that I've ever written from the past. You know, back then it was 3,000 songs. Back in 2017, now it's 4,000, more than 4,000 songs. That's what happens when 3 years go by, essentially. But the dream always was, I want to drop my entire archive, and then I want to start minting my songs daily, and there'll be an auction every day for each song. That's always been the dream from day one. And we're finally doing it. December 31st is going to be dropping 3,979 songs.
Wow.
That represent all of SongADAO except for years 1 and 2, which have already been sold. And then starting on January 1st, which is the first day of year 14 of SongADAO, I'll be writing and minting a song daily that will be auctioned. And it looks a lot like Nouns DAO, if you know about Nouns DAO. All that money from those daily auctions is funneled straight back into SongADAO. I don't claim the money.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
That comes from the daily auctions. The daily auctions, that money goes to SongADAO. The big sad drop, that money goes to me and my family. Good. But the daily auctions, starting on January 1st, that money goes to SongADAO. And the SongADAO NFTs, so every single one of those 3,979 songs and every single subsequent song is essentially makes you eligible to be in the DAO.
Okay.
And there's 3 tiers of DAO-ness for people. When you're just eligible, you are what's called a listener, and that gets you access to the Discord. You can participate in snapshot votes on sort of the overall direction of SongADAO. We'll probably do some things where it's like, I'll put up some topic ideas and you can vote on what I write about that day and that kind of thing. If you want to take the next step and actually do on-chain votes that have to do with the treasury, you have to get verified with Bright ID. And then at that point, you become an actual member, a real legal member of SongADAO. I should mention, because SongADAO is actually a legal co-op. Okay. And so a lot of these structures have to do with sort of this legal framework that we've put around it. And there's 2 reasons for the legal framework, which I'll get into. But so now, you own a song and you verified with Bright ID. Now you're what's called a voter. You're now a voter in SongADAO. And now you can participate in on-chain votes about the treasury. How do we deploy this treasury? Who gets paid how much? Where does this money go? That's something that you can do as a voter. And then the third thing is you dox yourself to the DAO. You let yourself be known, who you are, your full legal name. And I think that's all we need is your full legal name. We might
probably
need
to mail stuff too, taxes
stuff. Because at that point, what you do is become a builder. And because it's a co-op, we're a legal co-op. You are now like a sort of a part owner of the DAO, and you can get paid. The way co-ops work is that at the end of the year, any surplus that the co-op has is distributed back to the members.
Oh, okay.
And that's just a legal framework of co-ops. Yeah. So we don't have a token. We don't track you. We don't track your, part of the reason I don't want to have a token is what we're talking about is speculation.
Yeah.
There's already so much speculation. Like the token, I feel like takes the speculation from here, and it's just like,
then it becomes about token value. It doesn't become usage or utility anymore.
So when we don't need a token,
I respect that
because we have this co-op framework where the work you do, we're going to distribute all the ETH, or not all of it, but the surplus. And you can do between 20% and 80% of the surplus. And that's something that we would vote on back to the members based on the work that they've done for the co-op, essentially. And we're going to track that work through POAPs, I think.
Oh,
that hasn't
POAPs.
POAPs. I call them POAPs. POAPs.
I forgot there was like a spelling thing. Like, oh yeah, but that's an awesome project too itself. I love following them, what they're doing too.
Yeah. POAP is amazing. So you know, it ranges from sort of like the very tiny to the very large, but like the very large idea would be, let's say you or someone you know is like a music licensing
Gotcha
person, and you get a song placed in like a Netflix movie. You would get a POAP for that, and that POAP represents a certain percentage of
that's fun
that surplus at the end of the year. And so you can see the upside, you know, because now that song appears in that movie, it's going to get a lot of listens on Spotify. It's going to get a lot of views on YouTube. All of that revenue goes back into the DAO and gets distributed back to the members.
That's amazing, because like, yeah, this is initially created for SongADAO, but like you're also creating an amazing platform that can be used for anything else NFT related. That's awesome, man. Like I think it's pretty.
That's a big hope.
And it's well thought out. And like obviously they have you, who's like credible in your history of writing songs.
Yeah.
And I guess after December 31st, you've put all your songs on. Every day after that, you're going to continue writing songs. And will it be published same day? Would you have to have an auction for that?
Exactly.
Wow.
That's it. You know, and the songs, you know, still going to go on YouTube. This is the wonderful thing about NFTs, right? Is the song can be everywhere, and then there's going to be one owner, right? There's going to be just one owner, and whatever the money is from those auctions, that goes straight back to the DAO, and hopefully, you know, builds our treasury, and people get involved, and we can start making shit. That's the dream. It's the utopian vision that I have right now, it. I'm ready for like the like messy reality, you know, of humans coming in and like just gonna mess everything up, and it's gonna be all fucked up, and like, but that's part of it, right? Like that's what we're in right now, is this kind of like, what are we doing? I don't fucking know. Like,
but that's how you start a business. You don't know. Like, people keep forgetting, like, entrepreneurs do not have a golden plan to follow. They just have a slight idea, like, and they go for it and run with it, and then
hopefully something
and they'll
happens.
figure it out. It's like you have no choice but to figure it out. I don't think any business was started easily without any issues along the way.
Exactly. Like, it's not going to be. I have no. You know, I know that it's going to be crazy. I know that it's going to be different.
Yeah, and like this makes me think, like, you're spending so much time writing songs, working on your own brand, your media, your SongADAO, and SongADAO, and the big drop, and you have a family with like your wife and your kids. Like, for me, like my like outlet from like work is like maybe learning how to play guitar, but like, what is your outlet? How do you like keep your sanity with so much going on?
That's a good question.
Some people just keep loving it. I mean, I had people say like, no, this is it. This is my life.
No. Yeah. Video games with my kids is one, I would say. Video games with the kids, reading books, taking baths.
Baths are awesome. Underrated.
Running. Yeah. Underrated. Big time. You know, hanging out with my wife, thinking about the house. You know, we just bought this house, like doing work on the house and like getting it into the state that we wanted, all that kind of stuff, you know, like, because it is so much, you know, it's a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a great team helping you out too with this project.
Yeah, huge shout out to Raid Guild, which came out of Metacartel. It's just so funny, like many of the people that I'm working with are people that I had interfaced with briefly back in the day, back in 2018. But Raid Guild now exists, and if anyone ever is looking for a great like sort of like insta team, that they come together. They're a wonderful group of folks. And their onboarding is really smooth, and you go and you sort of tell them what you're looking for, and you can pay them like 500 DAI, and they'll have like a consultation with you about what you're looking for. They're just great. And they've been helping me build everything from the smart contracts to the front end stuff. Wow. They introduced me to the lawyers that I ended up going with for the DAO legal structure stuff.
That's awesome.
Just great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very comforting knowing that you have a team that can like help you through the tough questions, which is even like a lawyer is a hard thing to find. It's so many.
Totally. Especially a crypto lawyer.
Everyone's like, every time I mention like crypto to like an accountant or a lawyer, they're like, oh no, I'm not sure. Like, I'm scared of that.
I'm not touching that. Yeah, we actually lucked out like in both of those fronts, because the crypto lawyers we got are amazing. They're based in Colorado. Nice. And then it just happens that the tax company we use, they're called Brass Taxes. They brought on a crypto person specifically to help because they were getting so many crypto inquiries. And it turns out that the guy who I actually have a meeting with in like 2 hours, turns out he's like full degen. He's
my gosh.
He's so into crypto that he knows way more than we do, me and my wife. And like, he's great. So we really lucked out on both those fronts.
I love it. Is your wife and your kids heading towards the musical world or industry?
No, my wife is not musical at all. My kids are both vaguely interested in it. They're 4 and 7 now, so they still got time. They're a little early. But my niece is, which is really exciting. My niece who's 13, just turned 13, is like the world's biggest Beatles fan. Huh. She's picking up the bass now. She's playing bass. So that's been really fun to watch, because she's been where I never had anyone to look at in my family. As I was saying, like, her whole life I've been around playing her songs, and
that's awesome.
Doing music. She's always been able to see me doing it, and I hope that it inspires her to keep with it and like do it. Yeah,
that's amazing. I love that. Let's see. So after being in the crypto industry for so long, what is your crypto pet peeve?
Oh man.
I love this question, kids.
Yeah. Well, there's so many, right? One of my biggest pet peeves is the sort of factionalism that exists in all corners of crypto. I could talk about it most specifically in the NFT space, where now we have, right now, actually, we're having this sort of like fight of apes versus punks in the NFT space, which is just another flavor of Bitcoin versus ETH, which is just another flavor of like, Backstreet Boys versus NSYNC. Like, who the fuck cares? It's all the same. It's this, what it is it's called this kind of fan culture. And there's no such thing as a good fandom, unfortunately. Like, even the most wholesome, My Little Ponies had like fucking toxic fanboys. There's no such thing as wholesome, good fandom. And when you introduce money into the mix, you only supercharge the toxic elements of fandom, because now people have their like whole livelihoods based on, and I don't like it. I don't want it. I don't like it. I think it's ridiculous.
I see a lot of that too. Just like, back in 2000, like when I first got into crypto, 2011, 13, something like that.
Yeah.
Everyone was all about the same thing, like trying to solve money. And obviously we're talking about money, but like, at least we're all working together to trying to solve something. Mm-hmm. And now it's becoming more and more fractionalized, as you said. And people are saying, no, this is a better way to solve this. Or this is like the new standard, or ETH is ultrasound money, and this is Bitcoin sound money. I'm like, we're all living in a messed up environment with our system, legislation, and the way we even just like have voting and our taxes, and like we don't know where half our tax money is even going to. Like Bitcoin and Ethereum are supposed to solve real issues. The money portion of it is kind of already looked out for. Like we can stop talking about the money now. We can start talking about we figured that part out. Let's figure out what's more difficult, like ownership, royalties, not just
all these things. And it's, you know, I guess it's like a normal thing because it's the exact same trajectory in NFTs, right? Back in the day, we were all just like obsessed with this idea of digital scarcity, and like, you know, people were talking about, well, are we going to put it on Tron? Are we going to put it on EOS? Are we going to put it on Ethereum? Are we going to do counterparting on Bitcoin? And it wasn't like there was no competition there. It was like, all these things. This is a great idea. Like, I just am so excited about this idea of digital scarcity. And now it's, anyway, it's a natural human thing, I guess. We're tribal. We have this like thing that we do. It just is so tiring. Another pet peeve I have in the wider crypto sphere is Tether. Is this whole thing of Tether.
They've been getting a lot of bad rap lately.
Yeah, it scares me. It scares me that like it scares me that I wonder how much of the worth of crypto right now is being inflated by anything, and it scares me.
Yeah, it's definitely scary because like there is definitely some type of inflation going on with, you know, even without Tether, there is like the US dollar that's being inflated.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know the answer either.
Like for me, it's like we were seeing all these new stable coins come out, the DAI, USDC, USDT. Like it's like, why do we need so many stable coins? How is it so? Is it even that necessary? Even Gemini has their own stable coin. Like it's getting like a little ridiculous.
It scares me that like every day I see new news stories about like Tether being investigated for this, Tether being investigated for that. What will happen if Tether goes down? Like, is that going to is that gonna really like? And in some ways, I almost like want it to happen just so like I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah,
you know, where it's just like, okay, let's just like sweep the slate clean and like not have to worry about any of these investigations.
Yeah,
anyway,
I mean,
that's another thing that I worry about.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's what we hope for, right? Like we won't need those stable coins to like, be our value. Like we got Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever the market decides will be the main form of currency.
Yeah, and I use Ethereum, right? Like I pay people in Ethereum. I get paid in Ethereum. I mint my NFTs there. And that's not a knock against any other platform. It's like more just sort of a legacy thing for me at this point.
It's just the industry you're in.
It's the corner that I'm in, and I know everybody there, and like that's sort of what happens, I guess. But other chains are interesting to me for sure, and layer 2s are interesting to me. The whole thing is interesting. We're so early, as the saying goes. We're early.
Always going to be early. I feel like
we're always going to be early. So yeah.
Wow. I guess one of my last questions for you is, what's your like favorite wholesome crypto moment that you've seen?
Oh, I love that. There's a really wonderful moment in New York City. I did a little show through Creator Cabins, which is a wonderful DAO that has these cabins out in Texas that people can go to, and you can apply as an artist to go for like a month-long residency. Anyway, and there's a really wonderful moment where two of my crypto friends, John Gold was performing a song, and Matthew Chaim, I never know how to say his last name, Matthew Chaim was sitting there, and he was the owner of that song that John was playing. He was the owner on this platform called Catalog of the song that John was playing. And so John was playing it, and Matt was there, and he was the owner. And it was a really wonderful thing to see them sort of interact in that way.
Wow.
You know, to see that sort of friend / fan interaction, the sort of NFT in real life moment.
That's beautiful.
It was very wholesome. It was extremely wholesome. Yeah. That whole event, our whole thing was like as wholesome as possible. So
I love it. Well, Johnathan, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I hope I've created some inspiration for your next song, but it was a blast getting to know you and your story. And I hope the best for SongADAO and SongADAO and everything that you've created. I'm pumped to watch you excel.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And let me know, like I said, let me know if you're driving down through Hartford.
I definitely will.
Love to host you for a lunch or something.
Thank you. See you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks a lot.